There are two questions that I get all the time from real estate investors. The first one is, how do I find deals, or how do I find more deals? The second one is, how do I get funding for those deals? Well, I've got you covered. I've created a program that will help you find all the deals you could ever want and also how to fund all of those deals. It's called the Real Estate Find and Fund Blueprint. That's right. It's a blueprint that will teach you how to find those deals and how to get them all funded. If you go to findandfundblueprint.com, you can check out the details. You can get signed up. It's a 4-week program. I have designed it specifically to make sure that you leave that program with 100% confidence that you can find deals and get them all funded. It's by far the biggest problem that real estate investors have, and they've always had this problem, and I'm here to solve it for you. I want to get right down into it. We're going to get into the weeds and talk very, very specific about finding deals and getting them funded. Go check it out. Findandfundblueprint.com. I can't wait to see you. If you're 21 and you live in your parents' house and you don't have any responsibilities and no bills, great, go for it day one. What do you have to lose, right?
You're listening to the Just Start Real Estate Podcast. If you're serious about your real estate investing business and need real answers, you are in the right place. And now, your host, Mike Simmons.
All right, thank you for joining me on Just Start Real Estate. I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to be here with you, have another great conversation, another great interview with some folks that are super inspiring. Love it, love their energy. They've been doing this for a long time and they're still super young. They did this right out of college. Like, we just crushed so many excuses in this episode that I think it's going to be powerful for you. And I'm excited to bring you Khalil and Kyara. Very good, cool couple. Very good looking couple, very fun couple, and I had a great time talking to them. They are the founders of Charm City Buyers, and they are passionate about changing the narrative in Baltimore and shifting generations by building wealth through real estate. From recent college grads to full-time entrepreneurs, they have grown their 7-figure real estate empire all before the age of 30 via the School of Hard Knocks. They have 20 plus rentals. They're always looking for great flip opportunities. They shared in this episode that they're actually working on a 50 property land development subdivision that's going to be awesome. And they're just growing and crushing it. And I had a great time. And like I said, there was like excuse after excuse that people have that we just crushed in this episode. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but stay tuned because they dropped probably one of the biggest gold bombs we've had on this show, maybe ever. So you got to listen for it. It's a little Easter egg in there, but you won't miss it. It was huge. It was a big gold bomb, and I'm glad that they said it because I think it's going to help a lot of people. So without any further ado, I give you Khalil and Kyara. All right, guys, thank you for joining me here on Just Start Real Estate. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you being on.
Thank you for having us.
Super excited to be here.
Yeah, this will be fun. We were talking a little bit before we went live on the mics here that your market and my market has some similar detractors or some similar stereotypes that we're fighting and we're dealing with. But I love what you guys are doing. I love your message and I love why you're doing it. And I think it's going to be super inspirational. So let's dive in. But before we get too deep, let's just catch everyone up to where I am. I know a little bit about you guys, but why don't we tell the audience a little bit more about you, your background, and how you got into real estate?
Yeah.
So I'm Khalil.
Yeah, and I'm Kyara. So we are Charm City Buyers out of Baltimore, Maryland, and we have been really investing and developing in real estate for almost 10 years now. So really focused on how do we turn vacant houses into homes? How do we, build wealth through real estate? How do we do all of these things? How do we really impact the community and really turn what people think about when they think about cities like Baltimore, similar to what they think about cities like Detroit? How do we turn that on its head and give some folks, something different to reflect on when Baltimore comes to mind, not only as just a city, but also as an opportunity to invest in real estate?
Yeah, I love that. What did you guys do prior to real estate? I know you started very, very young. You're young now, and you were even younger when you started. Did you do anything else before you dove into real estate?
Yeah, we bounced around. I bounced around quite a bit. So from HR to sales to all kind of different things, just trying to find my niche. But one thing that stayed consistent is that positive community impact. and building wealth and something you can pass down was always at the front of mind.
Yeah. So for me, I worked in corporate. So I was a corporate girl. I was worked at a Fortune 100 senior leadership kind of program that they had going on fresh out of college. And then left that and actually ran operations for a software development company. So really started to learn, like, how do you run organizations? How do you lead people? How do you, manage and create process, which really transitioned very well into us owning our own companies and being able to transition to full-time entrepreneurship in our 20s.
That's huge. And I think it's awesome when people start real young in real estate. But sometimes I get concerned if they had no other life experiences, that sometimes some of those fundamental, like running operations, knowing how to deal with people, sometimes that can slow them down a little bit. And then with your, diverse background, Khalil, and then your background is like corporate and having dealt with operations, that's got to be helpful when you're dealing with contractors and, trying to do multiple things and all these things going on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was working at that company, it was a lot about influencing and how do you manage people and get them on your team and on your side. So it's been a little bit of time really focused on not only that, but also working at a software development startup, all hands on deck. Like everybody's working on a little bit of everything. How do we not only get done what we need to get done, but also set the foundation for growth and for scaling. And so I think that time at the software startup really helped us as well, for sure.
So how did you guys even hear about real estate? How did that enter your radar?
Yeah. So for me, real estate was something that was planted in me really young. So I grew up hearing, and not only hearing, but also watching farmlands being sold. I'm from Pennsylvania originally. I was born and raised in Baltimore. So I watched farmlands be sold and housing developments be built, right? So new construction houses popping up all over the place. Kind of saw that transition, and also spent a lot of time learning about the history of my family, which had a lot of ownership, land ownership, starting their own businesses, owning a lot of real estate. And so as I grew up, I realized that that's where I got a lot of that interest from, is hearing those stories and that conversation. And I think, understanding, and once I understood how much power real estate had in building wealth and getting kind of more control over financial freedom, it kind of became a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, for me, entrepreneurship was always a big thing. Just always wanting to lead by example and lead a team. My father put a lot of that into me. You're a leader, you can do it. Like, if you can't work with your hands, great. If you don't work with your hands, work with your brain. And one step further, own the company. So that was always something that he continually pushed for both me, my other siblings. So when I had the chance shortly after college to buy a duplex, I almost did, but decided to chase love, and it worked out.
So which one of you, and I know you're both like totally into it and you love it and you're great at it, but which one of you was the spark that said, let's do it? Come on, let's do this. Was there one of you that kind of came to the other one and said, let's do it?
Yeah. So doing real estate was definitely my thing, like, kind of introducing real estate in the opportunity. But I think for me, Khalil was actually the one to spark my interest in entrepreneurship, because I was on this corporate ladder trajectory and was going to kill it. Right.
Yeah.
But Khalil was that person that really opened my mind to the opportunity of entrepreneurship and saying, well, why do that for someone else? You can do that for yourself.
Yeah.
So kind of marrying those two things together, no pun intended, actually made it a really awesome opportunity for us both.
So when you guys made the decision to do this, did you both just go all in immediately, or was there a slow, because you were in corporate, right? So was there a slow transition to like ease your way into it safely, or did you just cut ties and go?
So in terms of our full-time jobs, no, we eased ourselves into it. We made sure that we continued our operations until we got to a space where we had enough residual income from our rentals that both of us could leave. But in terms of mentality and emotion and our passion, we were all in from the beginning. Head first, just dove right in.
Yeah, we were using our 9 to 5 to fund our 5 to 9 before it was the cool thing to say on Twitter, right? So before everything was online for social media, we were out there just doing it. And focusing on, how do we take those transferable skills from work and applying them to ourselves. But also being able to really focus on our why, what we were trying to do and accomplish, and putting everything into making those things happen.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a good message, because I think sometimes, especially the internet and social media, they really try to really romanticize and make it seem real sexy to just like burn the boats, quit your job tomorrow, go all in. If you don't go all in, you're not serious. It's like, come on now. Hey, hold on. Sometimes people have like good paying jobs and a family, and it's almost like it's irresponsible sometimes for people to do that when they don't have to. I did the same thing. I eased my way into it over the course of a few years, and made a plan. And like they say, I made a jailbreak plan, and I executed it, and I got out. So, and I think if you're 21 and you live in your parents' house and you don't have any responsibilities and no bills, great, go for it day one. What do you have to lose, right? But it's not right for everybody to do that. And I think sometimes people think if they don't do that, then they're not serious. And that's not entirely fair.
No,
exactly.
Yeah, like social media romanticizes a lot of things that are really hard, right? It's not until you quit your job that you realize, oh, wait, how am I going to get health insurance? How am I going to, do all these things that you quite don't always think all the way through when it looks cool when you're scrolling online. And for us, it was, obviously we had each other, but we also had a daughter. And so there were a lot of different pieces to take into consideration. Entrepreneurship is a lot of fun until it's really freaking hard. And so, understanding all those pieces are really important. And so it's not just romanticizing firing your boss, but also figuring out, you got to look in the mirror and figure out what's next sometimes when it's just you holding yourself accountable. Yeah,
totally. So when you guys decided to go this route, obviously there's a lot of things you can do in real estate, right? There's tons of things you can do. And again, just kind of reading up on you guys and trying to really understand what you were about, it sounds like your focus is our long-term rentals, buy and hold, but I know that you also do some flipping. How did you decide where you were going to focus your energy and your efforts and what you were going to have, what was going to be your model? How did you make that decision?
Yeah, I think the best thing that we did was sit down and say, okay, how do we make sure that there's enough financial income on a residual basis to ensure that we can really pivot and do whatever we want and need?
Right.
And that's where the rental game came in strong for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we started with rentals, and then we decided to move into flipping, really focusing. And that's kind of at the time period when we started to zero in on how do we add value to the goals and initiatives of Baltimore City. And so for the city, they want to build home ownership. And so if we're just landlords, we're not adding to that. We're not participating in that. And so we started to be able to turn, those vacant houses into homes for people to purchase. And then now moving more so into development, right? If we want to have a say on what Baltimore continues to look like, then we need to step up and do the larger projects, the things that are going to really leave a mark on the city. And that's where we are now, where we're working on a project that'll be almost 50 new construction homes in Baltimore. Nice. So really kind of having that full, step-by-step growth over the last 10 years ago, from buying a couple rental properties to flipping and doing some large construction projects to now literally, leading the way on what neighborhoods and complete communities are going to look like.
Yeah, that's awesome. So help people understand, because I think this is always it's what interests a lot of people. A lot of people, when I get questions in the comments or, on the in the show notes or just through social media, people want to know, okay, these guys sound great. They started young. They had great jobs. They transitioned smartly. But when it came to funding your first 2 or 3 rental properties, how did you do it? Because that's a stumbling block for a lot of people. Like, hey, real estate sounds great. We don't have any money. We don't know anybody who has money. Like, what did you guys do?
That's exactly right. So straight out of college, I moved back home. I was a year out of college before she left. I moved back home. I slummed it. I had a 94 car. One of those kind of stories. I shared a room with my brothers, and I just saved as much money as I possibly could. Yeah. And we took that money and we put it into our first property. And then we snowballed from there with the rental income from that first multi. Nice. And kept on buying single family houses.
Yeah. And we were also really big on how do we learn and understand how money works. So using the different methods and approaches into getting access to capital is really big. So in addition to the cash that Khalil and I saved to purchase that first property, we worked with a nonprofit that did funding for the construction. We seller financed the second property. We used a private lender for the third. And so what we learned really early on, which was very helpful, is they print money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's your job to go get you some. Yeah, and so for us, we were building relationships and leveraging what our goals were, and that ability to connect with people, to get access to those funds, to be able to invest for ourselves and our community.
I love that. Where do you guys get funding right now? Do you have like a go-to method? Is it like private money or institutional money? Like, do you have a go-to method?
Yeah.
Right now it's primarily private. Mm-hmm. So working with individuals, syndications, and then putting our own money into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the message here, and I was going to ask a leading question, but I'm not going to do that to you, but because I know the answer already. If your private lender or private lenders sort of went away, and maybe some of the other places that you've gotten money from went away, I believe the two of you, just the little bit I know about you, you would just figure it out. You would find someplace else to get your funding, right? And so when people ask questions of me, you, I'm sure you guys get questions from investors. When people say, "Oh, there's no funding," and you say, "Well, here's what we did," or "Here's what you could do," and they go, "Yeah, but it's not going to work that way for me because of the." And it's like, when I start hearing that, I just go, "These people are trying to not be successful." Like, because everybody I meet who has any level of success, one of the common threads, and I'm telling you, it's a common thread through every single person I've ever talked to that has success or has reached what they are achieving or striving to achieve. They just don't let setbacks stop them. They don't let not knowing something stop them. They don't let not knowing where the next funding is going to come from stop them. They figure it out. And I think that's exactly what you guys are saying here. You use private lenders, you used your own money, you used all these different things. And it's like, it wasn't like someone just said, "Here you go, here's the money." You had to go figure it out, right? And create these and that's another thing, by the way, relationships. People want to know where they can get the money overnight without any work or having to talk to anybody. Like, relationships are always the most lucrative and beneficial, mutually beneficial, by the way, arrangements that you can have. And it's the cheapest way to go, and it's the best way to go, but it takes longer, right? It's not a light switch. So I think those are both great messages. Figure it out and build those relationships. That's a key to success.
That's exactly right. And I think about our journey as you kind of bring that up, between private money, between nonprofit funding, all these kind of different positions. We've been able to just figure it out. We're at a point now where we're ready to start a fund and get people's money together so that we can all kind of build together. Everybody gets a return and everybody wins.
Yeah, nice. The difference between us and anybody else that started, thought about it, considered real estate is that we just never quit, right? We never stopped. We continue to find solutions throughout the way. And now, starting our own fund, we're going to be able to be that solution for other people and be able to do more and create more here in Baltimore.
I love that. Can you talk a little bit more just for a second? I can just hear it. I can hear people out there going, "Tell me about this nonprofit funding." How did you come up with that? How did you find them? What was the general process for working with them?
Yeah, so our very first property, we purchased it cash. We owned it outright for free and clear. And we were at the RIA meeting saying, "Hey, we got a property, we want to wholesale it to you." And nobody bid on it because it wasn't quite in a desirable area, XYZ, whatever. Okay. But at one of those RIA meetings was a nonprofit organization, and their mission just happened to be to rebuild housing in the specific area where we had purchased a house. So we met for a few lunches, and a few conversations later, they were showing us some term sheets, and next thing you know, we're signing loan docs.
Yeah, so there's actually these nonprofit lenders all over the country that are focused on building communities and connecting with starting investors or even developers who are doing great work in those neighborhoods. And so we built the relationship. Khalil did really made a connection with someone there and really told our story. And, they wanted to invest in the young couple that was talking about doing these crazy things. And we leaned into that and made it happen. And so that seed planted, really created everything that came next.
Yeah, so we've been awarded all kinds of tax credits and grants. In 2020 and 2021, we received over $3.6 million in tax credits and grants, public dollars to go towards residential development. It's been amazing.
And one thing I want to underscore here, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you started working with the nonprofit who loaned you on that first deal, you didn't have some great track record. Like, they weren't loaning to these like proven commodities, right?
They were lending to kids who graduated college a year beforehand, right? So their entire thought process of who people were at our age would have been like a beer in a bar. No, it wasn't the track record. It wasn't even a ton of money. It was literally us making that connection and being steadfast in our goals and what we were looking to do and accomplish. And they invested in that more so than our history, because we didn't have much of anything.
So not having a history or not having experience is not an excuse, right? I mean, that just, it can't be, nothing's an excuse, but these are the ones that people bring up, right? So just, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but is there like you said these nonprofits are all over the United States. Do you know is there like a website or places that people can go to find that?
Yeah, so there's actually a kind of umbrella organization above most of them called the Opportunity Finance Network. I think it might be ofn.org or something like that. But just Google Opportunity Finance Network. You'll come across a website that aggregates a bunch of nonprofits all over the country that do exactly what the nonprofit we work with did with us.
It's like 200 or 300 of them out there.
That's huge. Opportunity Finance Network. Is that what you said? Okay. Yeah. That's huge. That's a gold bomb right there for people. So, it's just, funding is always a big, it's just a big, it's all excuses, right? There's no reason for anyone to not be successful if they really work at it. It's work ethic. It's like not taking no for an answer. It's not stopping when you get the first hurdle in front of you, all those things. Talk to me a little bit about, because I don't get a lot of this on the show. And so I'm always interested, working as a couple. How do you not be at each other's throats? And how do you divide and conquer? Or do you divide and conquer? Or do you have overlapping responsibilities? How does that work?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was just one kind of small operation. We both hands-on as much as possible. I mean, I remember times when I was painting one room and she'd be painting another room and we'd be listening to the same music. Nowadays, our business has grown to so many different spaces, where we both have our own role and we both have our own part and we both lead the direction of the businesses.
Yeah. And now we have a team, right? So we've kind of built where we have a team, we have a staff, we have all these things, but still for each other, kind of really mapping out what each of us own as far as our responsibilities. And at the end of the day, because we're still married and we're doing business, so we do get at each other's necks, right? It is like a real partnership in all the senses of the word. But I think with us, which is what has been really, really helpful, is that we were very specific and intentional about defining what it is we were trying to do and accomplish together, and define that together so that as you have the ups and downs in business and marriage and parenting, that we always had this North Star to continue to pull everything back together. And so we both kind of found and fallen into our own passions and our purpose within the business, but still also, always trucking along to the same destination at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're very honest about our strengths and our areas for improvement. Mm-hmm. We balance each other very well. And one piece of advice I would...
Okay.
You there? I think I lost you for a second.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Everything kind of froze for a second.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know whose end that was on, but you were just saying, Khalil, one piece of advice.
Oh, you caught me right at the punchline. One piece of advice that I love to share with people, continue playing. Keep playing and keep laughing together. As long as you can keep it light, keep it fun. Times get hard, times get serious, but keep it fun, keep it light. That way you continue enjoying each other's company and you continue working together. Yeah,
I love that. And maybe this is a little bit of a loaded question, but do you guys think it's better to work when couples can work together? Does it enhance the experience, or do you think if one of you, let's just say one of you wanted to pursue a corporate career and go that direction, would that make the experience less?
So I think for us, we kind of mapped all this stuff out together. And so it's kind of, we built it all together.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's for everyone. I don't think every couple, should or can always work together 24/7 like we do. But I think what's important is that you communicate effectively. Everyone's clear on what their goals are, their fears, all of those things, and have those really clear-cut, intentional, uncomfortable conversations to figure out, regardless whether it's running business together or running a household together or creating a future together, that everyone has their role and their responsibility and has a say in what that looks like. Because even running a house, like marriage itself is a business, right? So being able to, define that and figure out what is your mission and vision for each other in your marriage, just like you would in your business, is just as important. So how you decide to do that in your household is up to you, but really making sure that everyone has buy-in to where you're going. So you constantly have that opportunity to connect and have those important conversations on getting to where you need to go.
Yeah. I love that. I worked with my wife when we first started as house flippers. We worked together and it was great. She wasn't that, it's not really her thing. Like she did it and she was loving it. She was into it. But honestly, you know how it goes, especially in the first 2 or 3 years, there's ups and downs. There's a lot of challenges, right? And she just didn't, it was getting hard to sleep and, she just wasn't enjoying it. But the great thing is, and what I tell people is whether or not your spouse or partner, whether or not they are in the business with you, doesn't matter as much as they support you. So if they're not in, as long as they're not trying to actively stop you, you know what I mean? Like they're like, hey, and so that's how it was with me. My wife's like, I did it. It's great. I believe you. I trust you. I think you're going to be awesome, but it's not for me. It's not making me happy. So you go be awesome and I'll support you. And that's the way it's gone. And it's been great. So I agree with you. It's not for everybody to work together, but I think getting the buy-in, at least getting the support is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And communicating, because a lot of times that not getting the support is less to do with them not, loving you or believing in you. It's fear that they have themselves. Yeah. Your partner has themselves about money, about risks, about things like that. And that's where that communication comes in. So you can figure out what that is and then work through that piece together. Yeah.
If you guys remember, I started in 2008. You guys started, sounds like just after that, maybe. Mm-hmm. Do you remember back then? This is really what kind of was the knife in the back of my wife. You remember all of the flipping shows they had back then? Armando, Montalongo, and all these people screaming and all these horrible things happen. Like she would watch all those shows and just start getting freaked out about everything that could go wrong. Which we know things go wrong, but they're rarely as dramatic as what happens on those shows back then, which it was like, stop watching them. And she just kept watching them and it freaked her out. But now I know you guys are high on 2021. You believe that this is a great time to be investing in real estate. Now, let me ask you sort of a challenging question. Okay. And I don't disagree with you, but let me just throw out some of the things that I'm hearing lately. With the market the way it is, pretty much everywhere being pretty hot, right? And sellers, getting top dollar on the MLS for houses that wouldn't have gotten top dollar a few years ago. Why is 2021 great, and why should they not wait until the market turns?
Yeah. So one, there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of money is always made in chaos, right? So you think about the pandemic in general, a lot of people, obviously was challenging. I'm saying this from a place of privilege and I totally recognize that. But there was a lot of people making a whole lot of money during the last 18 months. And so there's that energy of being able to invest and lean into that question mark that's been the last 2020 and 2021. But being in Baltimore specifically, that really hot market isn't everywhere. So we're still in a city where you can drive around and there are blocks of vacant properties. And so knowing and understanding that even though the market in the MLS is hot, there's a lot of other places that you can find deals, particularly off market, finding them yourself, getting it from other investors or wholesalers or whatever. But there are still places that aren't seeing that same level of energy. And that changes very, very quickly. Yeah. And that's something that we've been really, really vocal about this entire time is don't let kind of what you're hearing scare you away from taking action in the spaces and areas that are going to see so much growth in the next 5 to 10 years because of some of the seeds that are planted right now. You don't have to compete on the MLS with everybody that's looking to buy their first, second, or third home, but taking action now is really positioning folks for winning long-term for sure, especially in Baltimore where there's so much diversity in the market.
I love it. And I really think when people ask me that, like, should I start now my investing business or should I wait? What's the market like? I am wondering, like, do you want to do this for like a year and then get out? If that's the case, maybe wait until it goes down. But like, if this is something you want to do as a lifestyle, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to start a real estate company, there are going to be fluctuations in the market. Like, dive in now and figure it out. And, people I know who've been in real estate for 20 years all laugh when people are like, should I wait? What's the market like? It's like, it doesn't matter. It only matters in how you react and what your mind, like, you have to change your approach sometimes and you have to like do what makes sense in your current market. But I don't believe in this waiting until the market dips or until the market goes up. Like, that's just nuts. Get in now and get it done.
Yeah, if we all had a crystal ball, I'm sure we wouldn't be here right now. We'd be over, sitting on a beach somewhere just hanging out. So,
no offense, guys, but I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I had a crystal ball.
say that, but that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I think, people try to time it and they're brand new to real estate. They want to time the perfect time to buy the perfect house to get the perfect return. Whereas the truth of the matter is when it is the perfect time, you're probably not going to know what you're doing anyway.
Yeah.
So the best time to always get started was probably 5 to 10 years ago. And the next best time is always going to be now. It doesn't matter what cycle of the market we're in because it is cyclical. And I think a lot of people's framework for what a correction in the market is, they think it's always going to be 07, 08. And that's also not the case if you look at real estate over, decades of time. No. So I completely agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
The one thing they're not making any more of is land.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the population is increasing. It's increasing exponentially. People have to have a place to live.
Yep.
You might as well get in the market because it's going to appreciate at some point.
I love it. Guys, this is a good place to wrap up. But tell me, before we do, is there anything you guys want, any parting words, anything you guys want to leave the listeners with, or anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would just suggest people check us out on Instagram or all social media on YouTube as well. Charm City Buyers everywhere. And you can also find us at charmcitybuyers.com. Those who are interested or thinking about Baltimore as a place to invest, we have a really great class to talk about why Baltimore, why now, completely free. And we drive down into why Baltimore is important to us, things that people need to know coming into a market where a lot of people fail, and giving some tips on how to make sure you're not one of them.
Love it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing. You dropped some huge gold bombs, some great tips. It'll all be in the show notes. Again, thank you, guys. I love what you're doing there in Baltimore. I love your mission. I love your purpose. So keep up the great work and nothing but success to you in the future.
Thank you. And thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview, that conversation. Those guys are a lot of fun. I love their passion. I love their purpose. They have a lot of good energy about them. And that tip on non-profit funding is absolute gold. I didn't know about it, right? I learned something every day. Hopefully that was new for you guys, and you should go check it out. It eliminates another excuse that I hear all the time that people have. It's, I don't have money. I don't know to get it. I don't have experience, right? Always a way to do it. That's the message. Just go over, under, around, or through the problem, but get past it and move on and have that success. Guys, I am so excited to be able to bring people just like this to you all the time. I hope you enjoy it as well. Go out there and kill it. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.